Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, Umber Rays, and if I sound a little weird, it's because I'm still sick, and if it's dark in this room, it's also because I'm still sick. So I'm kind of hiding out from the sun and other people in the middle of a long weekend, which I guess is okay if you're going to get really sick. A long weekend when you really didn't have any plans is totally fine. But speaking of being really sick of shit, it's time to talk about Brave Exvius, and we're going to talk about Luna as well as the Backlash on the JP side. Or at least some of the Backlash. If you're really interested, definitely go check out the FFBE JP Twitter, which is rather amusing right now with a translator. One, because let's face it, Google Translator is far from perfect, and two, it's interesting to see where people are standing on this issue. There definitely is a ton of disappointment from the JP side, with very few people actually still supporting it, and unsurprisingly, the people who seem to be supporting it are the people who just pulled with what resources they have or spent, and ended up getting what they wanted, which is usually a good way to say that, well, the gacha system is still good. I don't think that's really a positive way to approach anything, but there you go. That's kind of how people are. But interesting to note, it seems like Trekkie Gaming, who seems to be one of the bigger JP streamers, seems to have a general approach of, well, if you don't like it, then too fucking bad, which is kind of a shitty way of going about things. This is not about, just a single banner that is going badly. This is the direction that the game is going, and it does go to tell you that a little bit of, I do believe Trekkie's been playing the game for a long time, and does spend money on the game, and, when you're so deep into it, it can be hard to just let something go, so it also could be that Trekkie is supported by them. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Either way, Trekkie seems to be supporting it and has a fair amount of viewers. So it's a little concerning, to say the least, that probably Trekkie will continue to support the side. As for other things, there seems to be a lot of discontent and unhappiness, but most of them are so wishy-washy in terms of their anger. And this is kind of, pretty standard for what I expected. It really takes a lot to get people, fully riled and angry. And so I would not expect a ton of stuff out of the JP fan base that will probably amount more to just general, well, disappointment, and I might stop playing. Although there definitely has been some tweets of some people saying that they will stop playing. So in the grand scale of everything, it'll be interesting to see what the 2 live streams are for the rest of the month of May. Those will be the big tellers to what Alim's response is. If Alim makes no response of anything, if they make only mediocre apologies, then they have zero intention of rectifying their course, which probably means that, yeah, they don't care anymore. And it sucks a little bit, but if you looked on Reddit today, there was also an interesting War of the Visions interview with the lead producer of the JP side, who talked about the fact that he wants Brave Exvius to last 30 years. Maybe in zombie status, but that's about it. If it does, I feel really bad for the people who are codependent on this game that just need to constantly be playing it. And you may say, Umber, you have it loaded up. Yeah, I do, but I haven't clicked into it or anything, so there you go. It can just sit there as, I don't want to break the layout or anything. See it? It's all nice and white. Like my shirt. Cool. Anyway. The War of the Visions interview was pretty tone deaf, but it probably came out before all of this, or it was probably done before all of this, so it's hard to tell any of the actual reaction on the JP side. JP has yet to make an official statement about it, but Alim's been incredibly bad with communication, except in their live streams, and even then, it's more of a general, forgive us, we probably won't do this again. But they'll totally do this again. Either way, without some major backlash, I don't think we'll see any changes for the month of May, so let's sit back and watch this shit show unfold. But, you know, there was one other thing to talk about today, which is Luna. Is Luna even worth all of this? We haven't reviewed Luna. I didn't review Luna yesterday because I was still kind of in disbelief at what I was actually watching happen. Like, I'm still a little bit in disbelief. The idea that, really? This is the unit that Brave Exvius is willing to fall on a sword for. Is Luna even worth any of this? Well, the answer is yes and no. She has a pretty darn solid TMR for, just any healer or tank or support unit. 75 MP, 24 defense and magic, 52 spirit, 20% spirit, 30% water resistance. Really solid protection for a lot of characters for an accessory. Super TMR, 50% Esper damage, 50% ice, lightning, wind, ice, lightning, water, and earth resistance. Not fire resistance, but that's canonically correct, so it's okay. It's a materia. Esper damage is kind of nice. I mean, if you consider Bahamut and how much damage Bahamut can output, it's a solid super TMR. As a matter of fact, it might be just ridiculous in the future. But again, it's pushing more damage, and it's a super TMR on an incredibly shitty banner, and that is something we do have to talk about really quickly. Luna's Sprite, despite being a, you know, not a CG and a Summon Fest character, is probably the worst banner I've ever seen in JP history. It's almost like 3 years of game progress has just been completely erased in a single banner. And yeah, it does make me a frowny face, because woof, is this thing ugly. Only rate ups on features, a split banner, almost 25k lapis, and no guarantees. Woof, this is the ugliest step-up banner I think I have ever seen in my entire life. But hey, there's still plenty of time to make worse ones. And it really does go to show how angry the JP side is, and how disarray kind of the JP side is, because a lot of the JP use data from the data miners on our side, which has always been really funny. But looking at Luna Freya, her stats aren't anything incredibly impressive, and that's probably because she can output some damage based on her spirit scaling. But she doesn't specialize in spirit, which will make her less exciting. Overall, she's pretty darn survivable. Again, a Summon Fest unit basically will always have this kind of shit where, yeah, they're better than most of the other units. She has Flood for magic. That's the only really magic spell that I think is worth talking about. Power of the Gods is her limit burst. Level 30 maxed out. Magic damage 24 times with spirit scaling to all enemies. Increase all stats to 200% for 3 turns to all allies. Of course, HP and MP. All stats means, you know, attack, defense, magic, spirit. And ice, lightning, water, and earth resistance, 80% for 3 turns to all allies. Pretty solid limit burst. It does damage as well as buffs, so again, just a support unit power creep, basically. Nothing overly exciting here. Her passives don't really have anything overly exciting. A couple of counters that can also be increased, which are just seem to be water resistance or extra MP to allies, which is good, but not incredibly exciting. She also gets excuse me, an increase if she's equipped with Leviathan's bonus stats, but Leviathan is still mostly focused on magic, so that's, again, calculated basically into her stats. It's not overly exciting, it's not underly exciting. Gentiana also got this kind of thing where she basically got bonus stats from having Shiva equipped, but the stats don't actually outweigh just putting a Leviathan on her, so it really doesn't matter too much, and I don't think it will really matter overly much for Luna unless you're building Luna for magic, which seems kind of weird as she doesn't even have double cast in her kit. So yeah, basically it's all spirit and it's only on her limit burst. Meh. She has a remove all status from allies. It'll be interesting to see if this is hard-coded for zombie status or not, which is not technically in the game right now, and is a little confusing whether this is in there or not. I don't think it is, but if it is, excuse me, that would be a shitty thing to do, because Summon Fest, zombie only. God, we're back to the days of Ayaka and stop resistance, man. Woof. Never want to go back to those days ever again. She is basically HP, MP, support through a lot of her abilities, as well as some aquatic killer for both attack and magic. That would be relevant if we had seen, you know, any of those boss battles that were Aquan lately, but not so far, so it doesn't seem. And if Arden is the series boss battle, then it won't be Aquan anyway, so who really cares? But the big thing is she seems to have 40% damage mitigation available to her at all times, and she can double cast, so she can cast that as well as something else. And that's your real power creep there. It's not overly exciting, but it is powerful in its own right. Speaking of powerful, she also has a 180% all stats buff, 50% magic mitigation for 4 turns to all allies, increased limit burst damage 50% for 4 turns to all allies, and enables 5 skills for 5 turns to herself, which are basically elemental buffs for the party and elemental debuffs at the same time for the enemy. So God's Mercy, 6 turn cooldown, available turn 1, has pretty darn good coverage, and is available right from the get-go. It's just really strong, so I don't think there's anything really bad here. The only thing is, excuse me, it cannot be double casted, so you do have to use a turn, but it's so strong that it's probably fine, even in and of itself. Revenge of the Goddess, 4 turn cooldown, available turn 1, 150 MP, 50% damage, both physical or magical, to aquatic. Again, really depends if we see aquatics or not, otherwise this is pretty meh. Power to heal Star Disease, Auto Revive 80% for 3 turns to all allies, and increased water resistance 100% for 3 turns to all allies. Pretty meh. And that's the thing. For the most part, it seems like Luna's kit is generally pretty good. The limit burst damage seems really nice, as well as the constant access to damage mitigation, as well as a pretty strong God's Mercy, which also has a lot of elemental debuff and buff for the party. So all of that is really, really strong. How useful it is really questionable, and most people seem to be on the side that Sweet Luca is still a better unit and is also UOC-able. But that doesn't mean that Luna isn't powerful, especially in conjunction with Noctis. Noctis, with his strong limit burst accessible from turn 1 and a 50% limit burst damage boost to Noctis, is really, really strong, and she is also really, really strong with a lot of other characters like Chair Rain. But as a Summon Festival character, I just cannot recommend trying for her even, because her banner is 100% absolutely god-awful terrible. It is the worst step-up banner we have ever seen, especially 3.5, I should really have said it from the beginning, 3.5 years into the game. This is inexcusable. It's a terrible step-up banner. The unit is pretty good, but really not totally recommendable, and is even split between another unit that has an entirely different function. So, yeah, if you do decide to go for this unit, it's on your own head, but I definitely do not like it, anything about it, and I think Luna is pretty, you know, just okay for being what she represents. Anyway, so that's all for this unit review. Overall, Luna's pretty cool. The one thing I will give a major props to is her victory animation, which has the 2 doggos in her sprite, which is very cute. But yeah, don't pull just based on that. For any of my surviving JP players. Anyway, that's all for now. See you next time.